Welcome back to the Effective Classroom Practices Asynchronous Training Series. This session will focus on Module 3, Encouraging Expected Behavior, and has been adapted by the co-developed hybrid training by the State Support Team Region 6 and 10. As you will notice, Module 2 is the second of 8 modules in the entire series. As you can see, Module 3 is the third of 8 modules in the entire series. At the end of this session, you will be able to understand how positive acknowledgement systems teach, support, and increase appropriate behavior, as well as develop an understanding of strategies that encourage the 5-to-1 ratio of acknowledgements to corrections. Before viewing this Missouri video on encouraging expected behavior in the classroom, I strongly encourage you to have your guided notes ready to type or handwrite your answers as you watch the video. The purpose of completing guided notes is to increase active engagement and understanding of the content. When you're finished, you may proceed to the next slide. This video can be found in the Module 3 section of your syllabus, titled Encouraging Expected Behavior Training Video. And the guided notes are right next to it. The activity should take you approximately 16 minutes to complete, and that includes time to watch the video and pause periodically to take your notes. On a separate sheet of paper, write down what you believe to be the quickest way to change behavior in anyone might be. If you wrote down that it is to point out what they are doing right, then you are correct. By telling others what they are doing correctly, it increases the likelihood that desired behaviors will be increased, and it reduces the time spent on correcting misbehaviors. In fact, research indicates that you can improve behavior by 80% just by pointing out what someone is doing correctly. Student engagement is one of the strongest factors that impacts achievement. Let's look more closely at the impact of positive feedback on student engagement. The Beckert and Everson study found that 91% of students were engaged in the initial learning activity. When the teacher deliberately withheld praise, student engagement slipped to 74%. And when the teacher deliberately tripled the criticism of off-task behaviors, student engagement fell again to 50 to 69%. While the initial study was conducted in the 1970s, the impact of positive feedback on student engagement has been confirmed in more recent studies. There's a 31% reduction in discipline problems in schools where staff members develop positive relationships with students, according to Marzano's research. Now, you ask, how could that possibly be? Well, it's because what a teacher pays attention to increases, even if it's negative attention. PBIS Fidelity tools recommend at least a 5-to-1 ratio of positive interactions, meaning for each correction you provide a child, he or she should receive a minimum of 5 positive interactions. Keep in mind that for younger children or students with disabilities, this ratio may be as high as 10-to-1. Students who are struggling to learn new skills and/or have experienced much failure may also need higher ratios, such as 8-to-1. The ratio spans the whole day, so it doesn't mean that if a correction is provided, there is an immediate need to provide 5 positive interactions right after. Rather, it means that if you are already providing positive attention throughout the day, you're already building emotional capital, like a piggy bank of attention. So when you put 5 coins into the piggy bank, such as compliments, greetings, behavior-specific praise, they add up. That way, when you do need to make a correction of a behavior, you have already built a relationship with the child. It's important to note that while the ratio of 5-to-1 is important, the frequency is increased when students are learning new skills. Do you know what your average ratio of positive interactions is? Chances are you don't. And if not, I am personally challenging you to collect some baseline data on this. In your syllabus, you will find the ratio of interactions strategy description and ratio of interactions monitoring form. The best way to gather this data would be to ask a colleague to observe you teaching a lesson. This data will allow you to reflect upon your current interactions with your students, which will inform your future practices. I would also encourage you to repeat this process periodically until you have mastered the skill and reached your goal. One strategy to consider using is a ticket of reinforcement. A reinforcement system, such as providing students with a complimentary ticket or buck, is a system that was designed to remind the adults to praise students for meeting the expectations and to also have positive interactions with them. The ticket on the screen shows how a high school building-wide acknowledgement system includes classroom acknowledgements. This helps the classroom acknowledgement system directly align to the building-wide acknowledgement system. That way it isn't seen as something else in addition to. There are many ways that all staff in the building can increase their ratio of interactions with students. Consider interacting in a friendly, supportive manner at all times with students, parents, guests, and colleagues. Or initiate positive interactions by making eye contact, smiling, nodding, winking, being welcoming. There's an additional information regarding behavior-specific praise research and videos that are included in Module 3 of your syllabus under the Optional Resources section. In developing an acknowledgement system, it's important to consider strategies for effective acknowledgement that include frequent and immediate, intermittent, and long-term. Consider this example of a classroom system. It includes immediate and high frequency, intermittent and unpredictable, and long-term feedback. And it also aligns with their school-wide system of recognition. As you'll notice on the screen, there are many common terms associated with encouraging appropriate behavior. And people tend to use these terms interchangeably. But the bottom line is the word positive. For our training, we will be using the term behavior-specific praise, or BSP, when we discuss positive feedback. BSP is an evidence-based classroom management strategy that improves student behavior by letting students know exactly what they're doing correctly. It's one of the most effective and easiest strategies to implement, and it increases instructional time, minimizes time that students are out of the classroom. There are several behavior-specific praise videos and the research behind it in the optional resources of your syllabus. Let's watch how this teacher uses behavior-specific praise. You will need a piece of paper to answer the questions on the screen as you're watching. Pay particular attention to Muhammad's reaction during the first half and then his reactions during the second half of the video. And also, watch for how the teacher does things a bit differently from the first half of the video to the last half. Write your recordings on your piece of paper. On your syllabus, you will find the document titled How to Provide Behavior-Specific Praise, and you will want to be able to refer to it during the next couple of slides. As you can see, behavior-specific praise has 5 steps to the process. Number 1 is to identify the student or the group that you're acknowledging. The second is to describe and acknowledge the rule or the behavior that you're recognizing. The third is to include a term of praise, followed by linking to a school-wide expectation. And the fifth one is optional, where you could then provide a tangible acknowledgement such as points or tickets. Now we're going to practice providing behavior-specific praise to students based on various scenarios provided. I'll do the first one for you. The scenario on the screen is, as you cruise the class during independent work time, you notice that Amelia has correctly completed a problem. The behavior-specific praise statement is, Amelia, I saw that you correctly completed the problem during your independent work time. I'm so proud of you for your hard work and focus today. You deserve a ticket for being on task. Now, let's check to see if our statement includes all 5 of the components. We identified that the student was Amelia. Yes. We described and acknowledged the specific behavior or rule that we're recognizing her for. Yes, it was correctly completing the problem during independent work. We included a term of praise by saying, I'm so proud of you. We linked it to a school-wide expectation of being on task and focused. And we provided the tangible acknowledgement form of a ticket, which is optional. So all of the components have been included in our behavior-specific praise statement. Let's try one together. The scenario is, LaVon and Jesse, whom you've had to redirect due to talking, are now working quietly. Try writing a behavior-specific praise statement on a separate sheet of paper. When you're finished, click on the link titled Jamboard BSP Practice found in your syllabus. You can type your response in the virtual platform by clicking on the sticky note indicated by the blue box on the slide. This way you can see how others have responded. Let's try one together. The scenario is, LaVon and Jesse, whom you've had to redirect due to talking, are now working quietly. Try writing a BSP statement on a separate sheet of paper. When you're finished, click on the link in your syllabus titled Jamboard BSP Practice and type your response to Scenario 1 in the virtual platform. This is a way that you can see how others have responded. Continue on to Scenarios 2 and 3 by clicking on the right arrow that's located at the top of the same Jamboard link. It should take approximately 8 minutes to complete all 3 scenarios in Jamboard. And finally, be sure to use the checklist to ensure that you have all necessary components in your BSP statements. A review of the research shows that token economies are an evidence-based strategy for improving student functioning in the class setting. Remember, the physical token or ticket is a reminder to staff to acknowledge appropriate behavior and to have positive interactions with their students. And when using a token or a ticket system, it's essential to pair the ticket or the token with behavior-specific praise. It should also be pointed out that tangible reinforcers may not be necessary in all classrooms. The basis for establishing a community that supports learning is communicating expectations and teaching students the necessary procedures and the social-emotional skills to meet the expectations. Verbal reinforcement is often sufficient for supporting students' skill development. There are a lot of resources in your syllabus, including incentives for in-school and virtual learning, mystery motivators, surveys to find out what activities and privileges students prefer based on whether they are a seeker or an avoider. Please take a chance to look over them. Group contingencies may be one of the most powerful and easily implemented classroom management strategies available to teachers. They create a sense of community, and they can be used to focus on the positive use of the expectation rather than the deficit. There's a link to the research and videos for group contingencies located in your syllabus under the optional resources. If you haven't already done so, take a minute to review the link in your syllabus titled PBIS Reward Incentive Ideas. It includes many great ideas for incentives for groups. It's recommended to get student input on a menu of short and long-term rewards in advance. That way you can be sure to use reinforcers that your students are interested in. Sometimes as adults, we might think something is reinforcing for our students when it really is not. Here are a few additional tips for success. Have a target goal that can always be met. Deliver the celebration when the goal is met versus having a goal that has to be met by a specific date. Avoid takebacks. Students can't lose points that they've earned. And focus on the behaviors you want. When group contingencies are successful, students begin to feel like they are responsible for other peers and for their success. There are additional ways to spice up group contingencies on your syllabus, such as mystery motivators or secret agents. Be sure to check them out if you haven't done so. We get a lot of questions about individual classroom management systems as well, such as, can I have my own system in addition to a school-wide system? The question is, why would you want to develop something that's in addition to a system that the building already has in place? It's a lot easier if you just continue to use the building-wide system in your classroom. And it helps the students not get confused by the different expectations and requirements to receive that token or that ticket. Another question that we get is whether or not you can exclude students that have had behavior problems. But it's really important that all students in the school be able to participate in school and class-wide celebrations because they are a part of the community. 3 to 4 times a year, the school and class can have celebrations where everybody participates, no matter their discipline record. And many schools have done away with the monthly meeting this criteria celebrations and have just moved to quarterly. We all celebrate because we all met a goal together. And the last question is whether or not we can take the reinforcer or the privilege away once the student has earned it. The answer is no. Once students have earned something, it's theirs to keep. Research shows that over time, it doesn't work. So we encourage you to take some time and look at the research behind clip charts. Of course, they're in your optional resources. There's also a checklist titled, "Does my classroom management system align with PBIS practices?" that we think would be a great resource for you to review. If you have any questions, please contact Tiffany Fluga at the State Support Team, Region 6.